Silva Mind Control Method. Chapter 2. Meet JOSÉ Silva. JOSÉ Silva was born on August 11th, 1914, in Laredo, Texas. His father died when he was 4 years old. His mother remarried soon after, and he, his older sister, and younger brother went to live with their grandmother. 2 years later, he became the family's breadwinner, selling newspapers, shining shoes, and doing odd jobs. In the afternoons, he watched his brother and sister while they did their homework, and they helped him learn to read and write. He has never attended school except to teach. José's emergence from poverty began one day when he was waiting his turn at a hair salon. He looked for something to read. What he took was a lesson from a correspondence course to learn how to repair radios. José asked to borrow it, but the hairdresser only agreed to rent it to him. And that was on the condition that José solved the exam that was on the back in the name of the hairdresser. Every week, José paid $1, read the lesson, and took the exam. Soon, a diploma was hanging on the wall of the barber shop, while at the other end of town, José, at the age of 15, began repairing radios. As the years went by, his repair business became one of the largest in the area, providing him with money for his brother and sister's education, the means for him to marry, and eventually about $500,000 to finance the 20 years of research that led to mind control. It was another man with diplomas, these obtained more conscientiously than the hairdressers, who accidentally incited these investigations. The man was a psychiatrist whose job was to ask questions to men who were recruited into the broadcasting service during World War II. "Do you wet the bed?" Joseph was stunned. "He likes women?" Joseph, father of 3 children, and destined to one day be the father of 10, was dismayed. Surely, he thought, the man knew more about the human mind than the barber knew about radios. Why did he ask such absurd questions? It was this moment of confusion that started José on the odyssey of scientific research that led him to become certified researchers without diplomas or one of his time. Through their writings, Freud, Jung, and Adler became his first teachers. The absurd questions took on deeper meanings, and before long, José was prepared to ask a question of his own. Is it possible, through the use of hypnosis, to improve a person's capacity for learning and, in fact, raise their IQ? In those days, it was believed that IQ was something we were born with, but José was not so sure about it. The question had to wait while he studied advanced electronics to become an instructor in the Army Signal Service. When he got his license, with no savings and $200 in his pocket, he slowly began to rebuild his business. At the same time, he got a part-time job teaching at Laredo Junior College, where he supervised 3 other teachers and was in charge of organizing the school's electronics laboratories. 5 years later, when television made its appearance, his repair business began to prosper, and José put an end to his career as a teacher. His business once again became the largest in the city. His workdays ended around 9 at night. Then he had his dinner, and when the house was quiet, he studied for approximately 3 hours. His studies took him even deeper into hypnosis. Coupled with what he learned about hypnosis and seeing some of his children's failing grades on report cards, he wondered, can learning ability and IQ be improved through some type of mental training? José already knew that the mind generates electricity. I had read about the experiments that discovered the alpha rhythm earlier this century. He knew from his work in the field of electronics that the ideal circuit is one that has the least resistance or impedance by virtue of making the greatest use of its electrical energy. Would the mind also work more efficiently if its impedance were lowered? And can its impedance be reduced? José began using hypnosis to calm his children's minds and discovered what seemed to many to be a paradox. He discovered that the brain was more effective when it was less active. At lower frequencies, the brain received and accumulated information better. The crucial problem was keeping the mind alert at these frequencies, which are associated with daydreaming and sleeping rather than practical activity. Hypnosis allowed the receptivity that Joseph was looking for, but not the kind of independent thinking that leads to reasoning things out so that they can be understood. It is not enough to have a head full of remembered data. Discernment and understanding are also needed. Shortly after, José abandoned hypnosis and began experimenting with mental training exercises to calm the brain and, despite this, keep it more independent and alert than in hypnosis. This, he deduced, would lead to improved comprehension and consequently to having a combined memory and higher IQ scores. The exercises from which mind control evolved required relaxed concentration and vivid mental visualization as means to reach lower levels. Once achieved, these levels proved to be more effective than the beta level for learning. The proof was in the marked improvement in his children's grades over 3 years as he continued to perfect his techniques. José had obtained an outstanding achievement, an extremely significant step, which research and other feedback, mainly biological, have confirmed since then. He was the first person to prove that we can learn to consciously function in the alpha and theta frequencies of the brain. Another outstanding discovery, equally surprising, would soon follow. One night, Joseph's daughter had come in on level, to use modern mind control terminology, and Joseph was interrogating her regarding her studies. As she answered each question, he structured the next one in his mind. This was the common procedure, and so far the session had been no different from the hundreds of sessions that had preceded it. Suddenly, gently, the routine was modified in a transcendental way. She answered a question that her father had not yet asked her, then to another, and to another. I was reading his mind. This happened in 1953, when ESP was becoming a respectable science for scientific research, largely through the published works of Dr. J.B. Rhine of Duke University. José wrote to Dr. Rhine to inform him that he had trained his daughter in the practice of ESP and received a disappointing response. Dr. Rhine hinted that it was possible that the girl was already a psychic from birth. Without testing the girl before training, there was no way to pinpoint it. Meanwhile, the neighbors noticed that José's children's schoolwork had improved significantly. When he had begun to carry out his experiments, they had been cautious about his investigations into the unknown, around forces that were perhaps best left untouched. However, the triumphs of a man who worked with his own children could not be ignored. Would José be willing to train their children as well? After Dr. Rhine's letter, this was just what Joseph needed. If what he had accomplished with one boy could be done with others, he would have credited the kind of repetitive experiments that are essential to the scientific method. Over the next 10 years, he trained 39 Laredo children, with even better results, because he perfected his techniques a little more with each child. Thus, he achieved another outstanding goal: He had developed the first method in history that can train anyone to use ESP, and he had 39 experiments that could be repeated to verify it. Now the method had to be perfected. After 3 years, José developed the training course that is used today. It requires only 40 to 48 hours and is equally effective for adults and children. So far, it has been confirmed in more than 1 million experiments, this being a number of repetitions that no impartial scientist can ignore. Those long years of research were funded by José's thriving electronic business. There were no grants available from any university or foundation, or from the government, for such an unusual field of research. Today, the Mind Control Organization is a thriving family business, and its profits are largely dedicated to conducting other research and maintaining its speaker growth. There are mind control centers in all 50 states of the United States and 35 other nations. Despite this success, Joseph has not become a celebrity, nor a guru or spiritual leader with followers or disciples. He is a simple man of simple habits who speaks with the soft, almost lost accent of the frontier American. He is a robustly built man with a kind face that smiles easily. Anyone who asks Joseph what success has meant to him will receive a deluge of stories of his triumphs. Here are some examples. A woman wrote to the Boston Herald American newspaper, begging for someone to provide her with some means to help her husband, who was suffering from tormenting migraines. The newspaper published that letter, and the next day published another letter from another person, who also pleaded for a means to control these migraines. A doctor read these letters and wrote that she had suffered from migraines all her life. He had taken the mind control courses and had not had a single migraine since. And would you believe me if I told you that the following introductory lecture was packed? Absolutely bursting at the seams. Another doctor, a famous psychiatrist, advises all his patients to take mind control courses because they provide them with lucidity that in some cases would have required 2 years of therapy to produce. An entire marketing company was organized as a cooperative by graduates who used what they learned in mind control to invent new products and devise means of distributing them. In its 3rd year, the company has 18 products on the market. It used to take an advertiser about 2 months to create a campaign for new clients, a typical time in that field. Now, with mind control, fundamental ideas emerge in 20 minutes, and the rest of the work is completed in 2 weeks. 14 members of the Chicago White Sox baseball team took the mind control course. The individual averages of all of them improved, most of them in an extraordinary way. The husband of an overweight woman suggested that she try mind control, since all her diets had failed. She agreed as long as he also attended the courses. She lost 10 kilos after 6 weeks, and he stopped smoking. A professor at a pharmacy school teaches mind control techniques to his students. Their grades are improving in all their subjects, they study less and are more relaxed. Everyone already knows how to use their imagination. I simply make my students practice more with it. I show them that imagination is valid and that there is a form of reality in imagination which they can use. Although José smiles easily when he hears someone say to him, "José, you have changed my life," the smile fades a little and he says, "No, I didn't do it. You did it with your own mind." Now, starting with the next chapter, Joseph himself will teach you how you can use your mind to change your life. Watch more videos of the Silva Mind Control Method on our Planet Alibro channel.